In a studio that's in a basement comes the epic story of how two friends changed the future of the movie podcast game forever. The reviews are in. Boys Life magazine gives the High Sci podcast 4.5 acorns. The Daily Bugle says, these guys are super legit. And Pope Francis declares the podcast as life-affirming. From the kid who tried to get smart with David Spade and got fucking old.
You're still out. You're still bad.
And the guy who can name all four Baldwin brothers.
Alec, William, Daniel, and the baby boy, Stephen.
Live from the studio of his parents' basement. The Have You Seen It podcast.
Dean Charles Chapman definitely sounds like a guy that would assassinate a president. That's the name.
It does, and it also sounds like a 1920s
Whenever you have-
celebrity.
Whenever
too.
you have three names, you're almost always going to end up trying to kill a celebrity or a president. Dean Charles Chapman. That sounds like a shooter name.
It does.
But
it's not a shooter's name. It's actually Tommen from Game of Thrones.
yeah, it's actually an actor's name.
Yes, it is.
An actor that is in the movie 1917, which is the movie we are reviewing today.
And this was one of those films, Cash, when we did our top 10 that we had not seen.
Yes.
yet. And we had high expectations for this film going into it, and we were pretty bummed that we could not see this because there were no theaters that had this. When it did have its limited release on December 25th.
Oh, yeah. And having seen it, I could say it would have made my top 10 list.
It would have hit my top 10 as well.
It would have been difficult for me to take another one down from my top 10 because I had a solid top 10 that I thought deserved it. But it would have made it.
Yeah. Because this is, as far as a war film, as far as a cohesive storyline, like this was put together perfectly.
Yeah. Directed by Sam Mendes. Directed my favorite James Bond film, Skyfall.
Oh, yeah, you do talk very highly about Skyfall.
Very highly. Skyfall is the best James Bond. But he's done a ton of movies. He also did Spectre. But yeah, what did you think about
He did Jarhead in 2005 as well.
That was his only other war movie.
Yeah.
Which is
a lot of F-bombs in that one.
I know that's an odd movie for a British guy to do.
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna do a hardcore realistic view of the Marines at Desert Storm, and but that was pretty good. That was a brutal movie.
Jarhead?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Very brutal.
That was a movie I only ever saw once, and I was kind of like done with it.
Yeah, you're like,
after.
nah, I'm good.
Yeah.
Yeah, after this.
But a realistic view, and this movie, it is a war movie, but it's about as unwar as you can get, in my opinion. I thought. I mean, these guys. The entire story involves a very simple process of them not going and killing anyone, but them going to rescue.
Right, to literally deliver a hand message because communications had been cut off at this point.
Yeah, there's very little actual war taking place in this movie.
Well, and then even when there are chances for quote-unquote war against the Germans, a lot of the times we saw our main characters not even try to kill them.
Yeah. Oh yeah, well yeah, exactly. That was kind of the whole. That was refreshing to me. Where like these guys weren't like shoot first, fucking ask questions later.
No, they were kids.
They were just on a fucking mission. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they were on a mission to save these people. They weren't on a mission to kill anyone on the way. But yeah, it was kind of like I said, refreshing to me because it didn't have a giant overall anti-war sentiment. Which I know I'm anti-war, of course, but it wasn't that kind of movie. Where like at the end of Saving Private Ryan, you're going away going, what a brutal, fucking horrible war. That was not this kind of movie. Yeah. It was a fucking thrill ride the entire time. That's what I thought about it. I thought it was just exciting from once they get that fucking letter. It is a like edge of your seat, like roller coaster of these guys on a ticking timeline.
Yes.
It's very thrilling. It was very exciting to me. I was in it the entire time.
Another thing I liked about this too is like, and this going back to a documentary that we saw about Peter Jackson that we bring up quite a bit in regards to World War I. But watching that documentary really put things in perspective for me about how these young boys, they're 16, some of them 15.
Bro, some of them 12.
Some of them 12,
lied
13,
to be,
14.
Some of them were
lied to be servicemen in World War I.
Some of them had to lie that they were 15. They were lying to be 15.
Yeah, and they said, no, go say you're 18
exactly,
or 17, I think was the age.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, like I really got that with this film too in a lot of ways, because they weren't just murdering. They didn't just want to kill everyone or every German in the way. Like they ran away from a lot of them. Like they were scared.
Yeah.
Like that is the real, and I love the trenches scenes in this movie because it's exactly what the documentary described to a T, how it was, where they would bury bodies in these trenches.
Oh yeah.
And they would just rot away because you couldn't pull your dead out.
No.
So the horses would rot.
You had to stack them up.
The humans would rot, and they'd just be there for weeks and months on end.
Oh, yeah.
And the rats, too.
Well, and you were in a trench. You were in a trench where you had to constantly keep your head down. So it's not like you could get up and pull a body out.
Yes.
If you did, you had to drag that guy throughout the entire trench to go to the very end where now you're not in the front lines.
Exactly. And you see that, too. Like
it's easier just to
when
put
they
him
go
up
and
in a
find the
wall.
lieutenant after the other two people died, you see that he was talking about, we tried to drag 2 guys back. 3 of our guys got shot in the process.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's
and at this point, it's 1917, so it's a year before the war ended. So things are horrible right now. I mean,
They're
it's
miserable.
very bad, and that's what this film did such a good job of. It showed just how detrimental the times were, and just how fucking horrible everyone. And then he says at the very end, "This is because I love this." We'll jump back and forth, but I love the scene at the very end with Benedict Cumberbatch. Where he's like, if it's not today, it's tomorrow. And it really did end up being a war of last man standing. Just who can put the most bodies out there.
And I love the contrast between war and then looking at the land.
Oh,
as
yeah.
well, and
that
seeing
was
these
beautiful
scenery.
Yeah.
And then when you'd go back to the trenches in war, you would see just death, decay, and rot everywhere that you looked.
That's the thing about these world wars is it's kind of shitty to say, but they're very romantic in a way. With being on like the French countryside and the German countryside or like Southern Africa, like the Sahara and stuff, just being in those beautiful places. It was in a beautiful backdrop.
But then you go to the trenches and it's literally hell on earth. That's literally what I look at when I watch this movie, when I watch these documentaries. That is hell on earth. There's death and decay everywhere. It's just, it's gross.
And the rats.
And the rats, too. They got huge.
Oh, yeah. And you wake up and you have a rat eating half your fucking foot.
Well, it was funny enough. Like he was telling that story on the way right before they got to the field.
Yeah.
He was telling about the story of how one of his comrades fell asleep. And when he was putting that oil on his ear, remember that?
Yeah.
And then the rat was trying to eat his ear off.
They did.
He said he got his ate his ear off. So,
but you're so fucking tired, you don't even realize a rat's eating your fucking ear.
Crazy.
That's horrifying.
Yeah, it's terrible. But, I mean, these were literally the worst conditions human beings could be submitted to. Being in these trenches day in and day out. And this wasn't like what our military is today, where it's like you go in, you have a tour, so 6 months, 8 months, and you get to come back home. No, these guys were on the front line. Some of them, if they made it that long, were here for years.
Yeah, back then it was then we're like...
It was until we
you
won the war.
You couldn't amass enough amount of time during the war to just get out. I mean, because for one, it was 4 years, but you couldn't... Like you said, during the film, at one point, we'll get both their names. It's Lance Corporal Will Schofield and his buddy Lance Corporal Tom Blake. So Tom and Will, but at one point he tells him, he's like, because remember he's talking about going back for 2 weeks. He's like, I'm not going back because he had already been in the war so long that it ended up being harder for him to even go back on leave, to have to say goodbye to those people again and again.
And to know what you have to go back to.
Yeah. It's easier just to stay in the shit, I guess. But yeah, and we should talk about the big catch. It was all done, and I put it in quotes.
Of course. Well, we could see the little things.
Of course, it's very seamless editing, but it's tricks that I was watching for the entire time. Same. As someone that has been through. I was watching for when that camera went behind a pillar or went behind a rock or a tree, or when it all went black when they got knocked out.
Or the house.
Yeah. Those are very old tricks of doing single takes. But this movie looks very, very well done. And the single takes that they actually do when nothing, because if you're not seeing the camera and something move in front of the camera, that is actually a single take. And I heard they spent 6 months rehearsing.
I was going to say that George McKay was on Jimmy Kimmel talking about that. Yeah,
spent 6 months, and they said I listened to a story that one of the most frustrating times was they would get all the footage they needed for this really, really long take, and at the very end, someone had to light a lighter, and the lighter wouldn't work. Yeah, they said they had to do the whole fucking 30-minute take of him, because those takes of him walking in the trenches, bumping into guys and guys having their own conversations and stuff like that, those small things, those were my favorite takes of that over the head camera of just watching him, because that had to have taken so long. All those moving pieces with guys coming in with bodies and stuff, that's all done seamlessly.
It's all choreography.
Yeah, that is. It's all. It's all just practice.
And you have to hit your marks based on time points too.
Yeah, it's a different kind of kind of acting for sure. But it's like acting in my opinion, like in its rawest, almost like Broadway. Where Broadway you can't fuck up.
Nope.
I mean, it's live, so you can't do it. But yeah, there was definitely tricks that Sam Mendes used, but it's seamlessly edited.
Exactly,
together.
And we noticed it only because we were like
looking
the average.
For it.
Exactly, we're looking for it. But the film goers, the average moviegoer, there's no way they could even tell.
No,
I don't remember who asked me, but someone asked me like, where was that? Like, this was all shot in one take?
Yeah.
And I go, well, no, but yes.
Yeah.
But anytime, they would go behind walls or pillars or anything else, it was just...
But it's not like they do it very often.
No.
Like, it was enough to where I probably could have counted on one hand of when that happened.
And then sometimes they would go through a couple bodies, like, standing there.
Yep.
And
yeah,
you
exactly.
could see the quick little editing and the little, like, CGI there, but you really had to look for it.
Oh,
no one else would ever pick that up.
And it's shot beautifully. It's shot in some kind of aspect ratio that I don't know, but it's shot in a wide frame that looks amazing.
It does.
I heard this was Universal's first film that they shot like specifically for IMAX, and I wish I had gone and seen it in an IMAX because it looks, like you said, amazing. And did you hear they had to actually dig like 8 miles of trenches or whatever. And they had to get okay from the English government because they were worried they're going to dig up medieval bodies. How fucking crazy is that?
Isn't that wild?
In London, you can just go dig in a field and you'll fucking, there's a fucking knight. We can't do that in America.
No.
We don't have that old
No,
shit.
we
Can't.
don't.
But yeah, that was a big worry that they had to like get like anthropologists to come in and survey the land to make sure.
So crazy.
How fucking nutty is that?
It's wild.
1,000-year-old skeleton you can just dig up in your backyard.
I mean, wouldn't you want to find that too and like put it in a museum? It'd be interesting.
Well, they do, but they don't want just anyone digging it up because you don't want to damage the body. So it's like you don't want a movie crew of guys fucking digging it up because they'll just probably toss it in the skull pile. But should we just dive into it?
Interesting little fact, though. I have one more little fact before we start. April 6th, 1917, which was the depiction.
Yeah, it was the first year. Was the
day United States declared war on Germany.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good America getting in right at the end. Right when we can get that glory.
Well, we jumped into World War II, 3 years late on top of that, too, because 38 with Berlin and all that. We didn't jump in until December 7th of 41.
We were in that one a little longer, though.
Yes, we were.
I think, although they got in that thinking it wasn't going to last another 4 years. Yeah. Which it did.
It did, yeah.
Luckily, World War I, although I think they're both brutal, but as far as like trench warfare goes, you don't have that the same in World War II as you did in World War I. How disgusting it was. And just how horrible.
I mean, you could literally be right next to your buddy that you were serving with who's getting like buried and pushed into the muck of the mud inside of the trench.
Well, they talk about it in one point. They say don't go into the craters. They're deeper than you think. You go in, you'll just fucking die because you can't. And at one point they go into a crater and I thought, they're not going to get the fuck out of it because it looks like it's like that steep. But yeah, there's not. Yeah, it was such a weird war because it was like. It was right on the brink of industry and technology and everything. So you could literally go to war with people, and there'd be people fighting on horses still, and then there'd be the Germans with tanks. It was like a time machine war. You would see because like when Germany,
it's a great way to put it, time machine war.
Yeah, because when Germany invaded Poland, they had no update. They were all on horses still, horses and fucking swords, like muskets and shit. So it's a really interesting war. Yeah. And to have like the first war with chemical warfare and stuff, and people didn't know what the first war with shotguns. They ended up outlawing
yellow or mustard, right?
Mustard gas. That's the worst. If you got mustard gas poison, that just melts your lungs. Mm-hmm. It's the worst poison.
Oh yeah,
it's just cyanide.
Yeah.
All right. So during the First World War, April 17th, the German army has pulled back from the Western Front. Everyone thinks the Germans are retreating. One thing you should know about Germans, we know by now, they don't retreat that often. And if they do, it's a fucking trap and a half.
It's a trap. We need General Akbar out here.
The only time you know the Germans are done is when they're taking cyanide pills and killing themselves. They're not done.
That's the only way they're giving up.
They're not done fighting until... But yeah, so it's 1917. It's getting towards the end of the war. But the Western Front in north of France, General Aaron Moore. And I loved all the cameos. All the generals were cameos.
Yep.
Colin Firth, Mark Strong,
yep.
Benedict Cumberbatch. And they weren't in it very long, man. These two
but it was
guys
just enough.
Were the main guys, but it was perfect. Yeah. Mark Strong's character in particular. But yeah, so Lance Corporals Tom Blink and Will Schofield, they get called in by the head general. They're showing them the area photos.
And it was so casual the way that they got called.
It was. They did so well, but you can just tell at a time it's just when everyone is just being held together by fucking strings. Yeah. And it's a time where they're looking for any way out of that war. That's why that one group wanted so badly to go attack them, because they just wanted to go home. But yeah, so they get pulled in, and they're told that aerial photos have shown that the Germans have retreated, but it really shows that they've only retreated to set up an ambush, and they're
going to shell the living shit out of their old base, which is then filled by the Englishmen.
And they also tell Lance Corporal Tom Blake that his brother is in charge of this platoon, and that they're going to go in 1,500 men, and they're going to get slaughtered unless in 2 days' time. It's 2 days, right?
Yep.
Unless in 2 days' time he runs. It's so weird because, again, World War One. It's not even 2 days. It's within 24 hours. Yeah, but it's like 8 miles.
Yeah, it's
like nowadays.
Ways.
It's like
in behind enemy lines where Germans are occupying.
Well, and like back then, in that time, 8 miles was a fucking journey.
Well, every inch mattered.
Yeah,
it really did.
Especially when you had to go through Dead Man's Land, which is But so they're telling them that they can go through Dead Man's Land right now because no Germans are there. But it's like they don't. It's air fucking photos from 1912, so it's a biplane taking this, and the camera was invented a week ago, so they're not really knowing
brand new technology.
Not really knowing, they have no. They're still thinking it's smart witchcraft. They're not sure what the science is, but so they're a little skeptical about the whole thing. What's shitty is Tom Blake. He just had to randomly pick someone.
Yeah, it was just
randomly
a
picked the guy
thing, right? The guy right next to him.
And it's good because their whole relationship is amazing, going through their like development of relationship, because there's a twist around the middle that you don't see coming. But their relationship of him thinking that he was doing the other guy a favor, thinking they were going to go get some soft duty or something.
Yeah, like go pick up food for the...
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
for the platoon or whatever.
Yeah, I'll go deliver a message to a general, which is... cash. You're doing nothing. You're a runner.
Better than being on the front lines.
You wanted to be a runner back then, just delivering messages back and forth. But yeah. So he tells them, "You got to go. Your brother's gonna fucking die." Puts a lot of fucking pressure on these two guys. 30 seconds into the conversation.
Too much, I'd say. I mean, these are young men. They're probably 17, 18 years old.
Yeah, they have to hand deliver a message to his brother, or not to his brother, because his brother's his brother's high up, but he's not the general.
They're trying to find the Devons.
Yeah. That's what they're called, yeah. The Devonshire Regiment. And they need to call off their plan. Crazy thing about World War I is they had things where, this is the only war they stopped after this, but you could get drafted with like your entire neighborhood. So they would draft up...
The buddy system. In a sense.
Yeah, in a sense. It's called something else. I can't remember what it's called.
I know what you mean. It's like the next level to the buddy system.
It's literal. It's whole communities. So you can go from 1914 to 1918 with like your neighbor. And they had to stop doing it because entire communities would
get wiped out. All their men would be wiped out because a whole platoon goes in and they all die. all those neighborhood kids are dead.
Yep.
All the men are dead in that community.
Yeah, and the community just dies out.
Yeah.
Because they don't get people that have kids or anything. Yeah. So that was the last war. But that always interests me.
Imagine the sorrow in those communities.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone. That whole platoon. A platoon wiped out.
Yeah.
And the sorrow that all those mothers and fathers
imagine
and
the
siblings must
It'd be
feel.
fucking eerie waking up to the town and knowing that there's only like 8 people fucking left because the entire town got wiped out. That'd be nutty. But yeah, I think by World War II, they didn't even allow you to serve in the same platoon if you're brothers. I think you had to be in a different platoon even if you're a brother.
Well, and that's where Saving Private Ryan comes into play too.
Yeah, because
they had all brothers and all of them died except one.
Yeah.
You know.
It's such a weird process that someone has to go through and make those rules. Because if you're the last one left, they'll pull you out of war immediately. Because the big thing, you got to carry on that name.
Yeah.
You gotta.
Which I think
I
deservedly
understand
so.
too, but it's just a wild thing to even have to think about. But yeah, imagine being with your entire fucking graduating high school class. We're all rallying up. We're joining up, brothers.
It'd be real sad too, man.
It'd be a
because
small
people
fucking
are gonna
reunion.
Die.
Yeah. But so they're going, and Blake is all for it. He's like, "Yeah, man, my brother.
It's my brother. Yeah,
he
he's
takes
ready
him.
to
I
rock
like
and
it. It
roll
takes him about
immediately.
2 seconds. He's packing up shit already. The other guy's questioning a little because he's like, "This isn't my brother."
He's like, "Look, I don't have any time.
Will
and now I'm going behind enemy lines. I'm probably gonna die.
Yeah,
and do this.
And Will's a little older than Blake, and he's been through
a lot more.
He's been through more battles, so he's really seen. And Tom Blake, he's kind of just joined up. He's fresh. He's green. He's never. I don't think he's. We don't really get into it too much, but at this point, I don't think he's seen very much.
You can tell. You can tell he's green too.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's just very kind of awkward and runs into people and
and
fights.
his eagerness. You know, none of those guys are ever eager to jump into battle, but the new fresh guys are always, because they haven't seen it. They don't know what it's fucking like. You can tell when they have to go and talk about. Because remember, they have to go find one guy. He's like,
dead.
"Where's?" He's like, "He's been dead for weeks."
Yeah. Right? And then they ask for the second in charge, and then they say he's dead as well.
He died a month ago.
Well, who's in charge here? Yeah,
and it's like the ball boy is in charge now because everyone else is
the second lieutenant.
Yeah,
yeah.
And that guy, he didn't want to be there. You know, no, he didn't.
And when he did get the news too, I love the line that he used. A piece of scrap metal really do good for a widow.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like, it really puts that in perspective where it's like.
Well, that was the whole thing with Blake, who's like, "Oh, I got to get that medal," you know? And the whole thing was, I got to send my family something. That was the whole thing. And Will, you know, he said he got rid of it. Traded for wine.
Traded for a bottle of wine.
Because you're right, you know? When you've been there, that thing means nothing to you.
It means nothing.
I mean,
and what do you think a sorrowing widow wants? Do you think she wants a piece? Do you think she wants a medal?
Yeah.
Or she wants her husband back?
But that character was really good. That guy that they go through the trenches and meet, because
it was great. Because he was just really at his end.
Oh yeah, tell. And it's cool because that whole scene again is one of my favorite scenes because it starts out way back, where things are kind of good in the trenches, where all the generals are far away from the duty, and then they walk, and you walk with them the entire time. It's like a 30-minute walk, and you're walking in, and by the time they get to the front, you could see it just progressively gets worse, where soldiers start losing like clothing and shit.
And then there's injuries.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, people dying. Yeah.
People getting carried out, and them like having to redig the trench was a big one. But yeah, so that guy he gives him kind of directions. He goes, "You go straight out into no man's land," which the name, no man's land, you're not supposed to be.
Means there's no men living.
Exactly, yeah.
That's what that means.
But he said, you go out there, and the guys kind of tell him, but he's like, these guys are just going to fucking die. He's like,
well, when they first told him, too, he was like, "What are you talking about? I just got 2 guys who got shot last night."
Yeah.
He goes, "The Germans are out there. We had to try to carry the poor bastards back in."
Yeah.
You know?
Because they just left. They just fucking left. And we get that time when they go to the German to see that they actually left maybe an hour ago.
Because he kicks over that fire.
The embers are still going. Yeah. But yeah, so he tells them to go out there, and it's a very tense scene of them having to get up the courage to leave the trench.
Well, and that lieutenant there too. Like the way he was talking to him, he's like, and if you do happen to make it, he goes, be sure to throw this flare gun back. I really
No, he
feel
says
like
if you get shot, throw it behind your shoulder. He's like, because those are kind of rare. He's like, we hate when Germans get those. But he knew, of course.
He really thought they were going to die, and you really got a sense of that, where he's like,
anyone
okay,
going into no man's land it's you couldn't like peek your fucking.
You can't.
You couldn't lift one
exactly. Take your head off.
Yep, immediately. Yeah.
And I really got that sense. And this is what Sam Mendes did so well with like building the tension.
Yeah.
There was so much tension in multiple different scenes in this film. And this was one of them. When they started to go into no man's land, I expected a sniper rifle right away.
And I was looking for those small things. Even when they're in the trench, I was looking for like a screw up of someone, just an actor putting his head above, but it never happened. Those, I mean, he made it very clear that you gotta, you gotta keep it, because that was number one rule. Keep your fucking head down the entire time. But yeah, so they go and they go through no man's land.
And I love the visuals. I love the visuals of this. You know, it really paints a picture of what World War I was like.
It looked just like They Shall Not Go, where the land is just turned up dirt. It's just nothing living.
And the sky just seems ominously gray.
Yeah, and there's not even
just dark.
It's like there's not even rats out there.
Yeah,
it's just dead. It's barren.
And the only thing out there are corpses. Horse corpses, human corpses. I mean, the guy who was stuck in the barbed wire looked like he'd been there for 6 months.
Oh yeah,
he was so far decayed.
I like that part of him giving direction. He's like, once you hit the bowing guy, go right. And I'm like, the bowing guy? What's that gonna look like? Yeah, he was bowing.
Yeah, bowing. Yeah, he'd also been there quite a long time.
Yeah, well, they did such a good job of that, and like getting the feeling that no man's land has been bombarded with artillery
shells
for months, just months at a time.
Mercilessly.
I don't know what they're shooting, but that's how it was. They just constantly.
Well, when we saw how many shells the Germans had left.
Yeah, I like that too. I like that little small detail of it, because it was just
again showing, not telling, and that's what this whole movie
and
really
blowing up all their artillery guns, which is another small detail that's just realistic to what would have happened.
Totally, you're not going to leave those guns for the English.
No
way.
No,
that'd be the stupidest move ever.
Yeah,
and the Germans were smart people.
Oh yeah,
their weapons were far above. I mean, they had tanks in World War I.
Yes. Oh yeah, they were the best of the best. But most of the time they didn't even like leaving artillery shells, because that was all scrap metal you could use. But they were in a hurry on this one.
Yeah, you're not going to pick that up and load it up on the.
There's a lot of scrap metal. Yeah, you'd be fucking
that shit was still probably hot too, because they just bounced like an hour before.
Oh, I bet the cannons the cannons that they blew up were still fucking hot. Yeah, But yeah, so they get there, they get to the German trench, and again, I like the detail because you can tell the difference of a German trench to a British. Yes. It was much more just solid, just
and clean and organized, and
the engineering,
more concrete.
Absolutely, and they even kind of talk about when they go into the room with bunk beds. Mm-hmm. Like, they built so far underground. It was crazy. And well built, too,
where it was almost felt like the Germans had a better
ingenuity
life.
Is amazing.
And they said even the rats were bigger. Because they were feeding, like
they were better fed.
Yeah.
And even the Germans didn't have a good time in the trenches either.
Of course not. No, it wasn't no fucking.
It might have been they might have had a little better walls, but they were still in the fucking mud and the rats and whatnot.
But they were organized, because even you could see the German sign. Too, on the little post, it said, I don't read German, but it was like here, here, here.
Yeah.
Whereas like you could tell where you were supposed to go. I didn't see any of that over in the muddy trenches over.
And it was so much like underground, and that is something that the Germans did. They detonated big parts of this land so they can build under and everything, because they were crazy when it came to stuff like that.
Oh,
they're war machines. And
ingenuity, man, at its best.
But so they get there, they make it through no man's land. They figure out that the Germans just took off,
are actually gone,
like fresh. They are actually gone, yeah. And he shoots up a flare to let them know. And
he said, "Eat shit, corporal," or "Eat shit, lieutenant," or whatever. Which was hilarious, because the second lieutenant, didn't think they were going to make it.
Never. But so he shoots up the flare, and
then he just threw the gun on the ground. I love that. The flare gun is like a big fuck you,
Well, at least they can go get it now. They can come up and they keep progressing further and further, and as they get closer and closer to Germans, you feel things are getting more and more riskier.
You feel the tenseness in the air.
Exactly, because once they go into those tunnels, when it's like, this must be the way, it gets very claustrophobic, and you could feel it. It feels like it's squeezing.
Yeah, very dark and very Yeah, it squeezes you. That's good.
Yeah. But so they go and they're going through and they're seeing all what they left and whatnot, and some food and stuff. But of course, Germans, man, they're gonna leave some booby traps. It ain't Germany. Yeah. It ain't it ain't German unless it's rigged to blow. That's the whole thing. And this made me jump in my seat. I did not see the explosion coming.
You didn't?
Oh,
when the rat fell?
Oh no, yeah.
When the rat fell,
I forgot about all that.
No.
Yeah, it was so tense. And the rat, I did not think the rat was gonna go, because the rat goes a beeline for the fucking wire.
Yeah.
He just
and this was my
it was
take
tense, man. It
on
was
all the meat and stuff that they were hanging throughout. I think they were doing that on purpose so that would happen. So the explosion would happen. And it's possible. Just so happened.
Well, and they were obviously laying the trap of leaving all those canned food. Because remember, they left the big canned boxes of canned food out, and the wire was right next to that. Yes. So they obviously wanted people to go in there and see all the meat.
But what was the point of the meat hanging in those bags?
Because that's how meat was hung and dried, and that's how they ate it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm guessing for. I mean, the rats obviously got to it, of course, but because I don't think they wanted a rat to detonate it. I think they wanted a fucking British soldier to come in there.
When they were going to bury, I mean, they could have potentially buried a whole platoon alive.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Terrifying.
Oh, yeah.
That's the worst.
Well, they probably do, because that was one part of it that was, booby trapped. The entire fucking trench is probably booby trapped, But yeah, and it starts collapsing. It's a very, very tense moment because
the explosion was huge.
It was loud too, man.
It was in the theater. I went to the GXL.
So did I, yeah.
And I was like, "Jeez!" I jumped the first time I saw it. Obviously not the second because I saw it coming. But the first time, even though I saw the rat do that,
you expected it to be that loud. Yeah,
I was just like, "Oh my god!"
I expected it to be more tense of like a fight of getting the rat to not hit it, like he was going to jump forward or something. But that rat just made. Mm-hmm. That rat was done.
Oh yeah,
he was out of it. He was pretty much done.
Tom
with his
Blake
life,
though, he flew back, but they did it in a very realistic way where it didn't feel like an over the top action. It actually felt like the explosion sent him back.
Well, as soon as you saw that explosion, at least me, I'm like, oh, the Will's got to be dead.
He's dead. There's no way he gets out of this.
I'm like, that's the end, and that's another thing that the trailers did so well is they did not give a lot away at all. We'll get to the twist, but I was shocked when that happened. The big.
I will say that I don't know why, for whatever reason, but when I saw the early shot of wow, I'm having a stroke. Mm-hmm. Schofield. What is his name? Schofield?
Yeah.
Yeah, Schofield was running away from the Germans. I go, well, that's weird because I saw two boys and I saw Tommen from Game of Thrones, Dean Michael Clark or whatever his name is, Dean Charles Chapman.
Yeah, but that could have been anything. It could have been a fucking flashback for all we know.
Yeah, but it
could have been him running to the guy.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know. For whatever reason, like after he got stabbed, I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, he's definitely gonna die here.
Well, yeah, when he got stabbed, I pretty much knew it was sums up for him.
But it was well, yes. But here's the thing: like when they pulled the German out, I was like, well, what's the worst case scenario here? They're gonna save.
No, as soon as I'm like, I could never predict that. I thought for sure they were both gonna.
You didn't see the knife on the ground.
No, as soon as he went to get the German, I thought, oh, he's gonna die. Mm-hmm. That for sure. As soon as he went to, because it's always when you're trying to be nice. It's the same thing that happened in Saving Private Ryan when Vin Diesel's character tried to save the girl.
Yep.
Sniped. It happens all the time, and that's always guys that are new to the fucking
that don't realize
the job.
They're gonna kill you.
It's a guy, and I mean it's a very human reaction to see a man on fire, even
wanting to help him.
Yeah,
yeah.
Even though he's a soldier, just like their soldiers. I mean,
and we got a good sense of that when he was strangling the young boy that looked just like him.
Yeah,
in a lot of ways.
But that whole aerial battle with the planes and the plane fucking crashing was
beautiful.
Awesome,
it was cool,
man.
And it was so realistic looking.
It was so well done. It looked like they fucking crashed a biplane in that. But him running from the plane and seeing it in the background, that was one of my
pretty awesome.
Maybe one of my favorite special effects moment of I'll say last year, even though we saw it this year, but. To me, this is a 2019 film, which technically it is. But yeah, so they get out of the trenches. They barely make it. Will's got some dust in his eye for sure.
Too much dust. Yeah.
Back then, it was probably straight asbestos he was breathing in.
Well, and this was one of the most tense scenes because at this moment, the explosion happened. You can hear all the creaking in the wood and all the rocks are trying to fall. And all Tom Blake is trying to do is get Schofield up.
Yes.
He's like, stand up. And he can't see. You can see there's dust all over his face. He can't see a single thing. I was so tense watching this. Like, even though, like, you do know they're not going to both get buried alive, but still, just the feeling, I'm like, fuck, if I was in that position.
Oh, yeah.
What do you do?
And knowing that, Corporal Will Schofield, knowing that he probably couldn't see or hear anything. So he was just blind running out of this tunnel that was collapsing. It was it was set up to be a very tense moment, and it worked very well. Yeah. But, so they get out of that.
And Schofield's not happy at all.
No, like, at this point, he's like, let's go back.
He's like, let's go back. Why'd you bring me on this stupid trip? And Tom Blake's like, dude, I didn't know. I thought we were going out to like get some food or something. Get supplies.
It was a great moment for both these characters, and it was an important part for what was about to come.
Because Tom Blake tells him, go ahead, go back then. He just tells him, shut up.
Exactly. He's like, let's just keep going. Yeah. And you saw the bond between them, and this guy was willing to risk his life because you knew Lance Corporal, Tom Blake, he had skin in the game with his brother being, so it was no doubt that he had to go no matter what. Before Will, it was just a bad timing, bad place, because he could have been anywhere. He could have invited anyone.
Yeah.
So they go and they walk and again it's the French countryside, so it's beautiful, and they find an awesome like little farmhouse, and it's cool. They're looking around. They're just making sure that no one's there, and Will, he finds some milk, finds a little dairy milk, which again you see
with Germans were just there,
how fresh it was, and all the cows are dead, just something Germans love to do.
Well, it's strategic. It's smart. You don't want the Americans to feed off the cows. So if they're rotting,
so if you can't have them, hopefully you can take them. Yeah, in the best case scenario. But
there was one cow that was still alive, though.
I'm guessing they just missed him.
Yeah, they missed him. They missed the guy. He was smart. That cow was smart.
I'm guessing that cow may have been over the hill when the shit was going down.
That's like one of the Jamestown cows. It's like, okay, I'm gonna hide under the bunk. Hopefully no one finds me. Yeah.
But yeah. So they're there, and it's kind of a lull or just a peaceful moment in all this chaos and craziness that's going on, and it's too good to be true. Some shit's about to go down. Again, we saw these planes earlier kind of going at it, and now they're still fucking fighting in the air. It was one German against both planes, and
but again, Germans with the advanced engineering,
everything
planes were.
Yeah. Oh, I thought he was almost gonna fucking get out of it. Might have been the Red Baron or something, but he doesn't.
He does. He does not.
Takes a hard crash. Again, an awesome scene, man.
And so realistic. Like, it actually looked great.
Yeah.
The plane coming, him running, the explosion coming through. Like, I was really looking for like, okay, this is not gonna look great. Everything looked really good.
It looked amazing,
and it looked like one continuous shot all the way through.
Yeah. So the German, he crashes. He's alive. Plane bursts into flames. He's
on fire.
He's burning, and of course, being the good guy that he is, Corporal Tom Blake, he runs to help the German, and
then Schofield comes behind him and helps as well.
Yeah, at first Will doesn't want.
No, he doesn't want to.
You gotta let that guy burn. At least shoot him.
And then they get him out of the plane, and that's what Schofield says. He says, "Mercy kill. We got to shoot him." And he goes, Tom Blake goes, "No, go get him some water."
And he does. And that's the biggest mistake he made. He turns his back. And as soon as he turned his back, that fucking sneaky ass German, man.
He stuck that dagger. Yeah. That was a big knife.
Oh, it was the Bowie knife from Rambo.
It was. It definitely was. Oh man.
Brutal, and such a great scene. And Will turns around and pops that guy a couple times. Oh, I think this two scenes are the only deaths in the entire movie.
Besides the strangulation scene.
Yeah, that's true. I forgot about that guy.
But that guy might not have died. He might have just passed out. Who knows?
Yeah, that other German got away with one too. He could have died too. That fucking drunk ass guy. That scene was fucking tense. Yeah, we'll talk about that because that might have been the most. I almost forgot about it.
And there were really beautiful moments in this movie too, with like the French lady. We'll get into that later.
Yeah,
but yeah.
Well, this is one of the beautiful moments too. Is when because he gets stabbed, and it's bad. It's a bleeder.
Yeah.
And you know,
you're not coming
if it was
back
Bill
from
the
this
Butcher, he'd tell you that's a kill shot because it's right in the kidney or the lung or whatever, and that's a puncture wound.
It was too deep of a wound.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. You're just filling up with blood at that point.
And I really thought this was a really tense or a tender moment between these two as well.
It was, and it was so good though. So good you could see him turning white. As more
That's what
blood.
I appreciated. Yeah,
I
don't know if they did that.
They did
CGI or something. Or
I'm not sure, but it was such but you could tell it was so.
It was a small detail.
It was such a small detail that you almost had to be looking for him to be because by the time he dies, it's not like he's a ghost or anything, but you can tell kind of like. In the back of your mind, you're thinking he's getting more and more pale, and it's getting worse and worse.
Well, and that's how, like, if you have that sort of blood loss and that immediate sort of blood loss, that's what happens to you. You turn pale.
But I love that, man.
Blood.
I love that they added that in there.
Yeah.
And it made the death.
It added a element to it.
It made it, as he was getting closer to death, more and more deep, in my opinion, because you could see it was getting bad, and you could see that fucking Will was seeing the same thing we were seeing, seeing him go ghost white. And the whole scene of him trying to pick him up and not being able to, it's brutal.
Oh, it's so sad.
It is.
It's so sad, and he keeps trying. He's like, put me down.
Yeah.
He's just in so much pain. I think at that moment he kind of knows.
Oh, he does, because he was like, I'll just catch up with you. He's like, I'll just catch up with you. And he knew, you know.
He knew, yeah. And then he asks, and then he kind of loses his mind for a minute, too. He's like, I've been hit.
Yeah.
And then he's like,
he's lost a lot of blood.
Yeah, and he looks, well, yeah, of course. And he looks
it will make
down,
you delirious.
But it was really good acting because he looks down.
It was
and
very
he goes,
good. It felt
Am I going to die?
It felt very realistic.
Yeah, and he took a long pause there, and he was honest with them. And
took
he said
the letter
yes.
out, told him to write to his mom, as every soldier does. So depressing. Yeah,
it is. Yeah, but, holds the picture to
holds
his
the picture
chest.
to him. Yeah, tells him to write, make sure he writes to his mom, and tells him to go
and
save
then
his brother.
robs his ass.
Yep.
Just takes off all his
gold jewelry. You got it before the Germans do.
You got to get all that. Yep.
And you got to send all that shit back because someone else will just come up and take it. You got to send that because he ended up giving him the ring to his brother.
Well, I knew he was going to. I was just.
Well, yeah, but I like that they showed that small detail of him going through everything and taking all the shit.
Taking
not
the map,
just leaving
realizing
everything.
it's way too bloody to even use.
Yeah. And then he kind of gets a jump scare by just a couple British soldiers. Remember, they ended up going to the farmhouse.
Was it British or French?
They're British. They're speaking English.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, I guess so. Yeah, duh.
Yeah. But, so it was just a bunch of soldiers, and they kind of help him carry the body. But at this point, Will is kind of a ghost of a person.
Right.
A shell of a person, I guess. Because they're trying to talk to him, and he's just kind of not with it. But he does have a canteen of milk. We got to remember that.
Yeah,
it
we
comes
got
in,
to.
But that was a really good scene because it was like such a happy moment. Them finding that farmhouse, finding some milk, and them kind of being able to relax. And
it
then
just turned so bad, so quick.
Sour quick.
That's how war is, though.
Yeah, but these soldiers saying that they're going to this certain part of France, and they'll be able to drive him closer to the Devons. Was that what they're called?
Yeah, the Devons.
The Devons, yeah. And it takes him a while, and he gets up and he goes, "All right, let's do it." He's
and
right back at
scene.
it.
I love that scene in the back of the truck.
So do I with all the other soldiers.
A lot of more details that are the small, subtle details, but they're something that I really appreciate looking into World War I with watching that documentary and knowing a lot more. The boy that was sitting right next to him, his teeth were rotting.
Oh yeah.
And that was something very common but you don't see a whole lot of that in movies.
Yeah.
Where their teeth are rotten and stuff. And they were making jokes in there about the kid's teeth and whatnot.
Well, this scene, so they start driving him. They're going to drive him, kind of drop him off close to where he needs to be. But, it's 1917 trucks, and that you run into a puddle and you're just fucking stuck. Yeah. But that scene where he's like yelling at him, like begging and begging for them to keep trying and not to stop. It's very just tense,
And both
you
times
could
I
feel
saw
the
this
desperation
movie,
in his voice. You can hear it.
And this is something that this movie does really well. Is it was like I was like when they were pushing the truck. Both times I saw this movie, I was pushing the truck too.
Yeah,
I really
exactly,
felt like I was pushing the truck. As stupid as that sounds,
that's the thing is you can just feel how desperate in his voice he was.
Yeah.
And even the soldiers were like, it took a while, but they finally figured out, oh, this guy's fucking.
He's got a serious mission.
Yeah, he's got
something.
We got to help this guy out, but. So they go, and this is when Mark Strong makes his cameo. He kind of because I love. Oh, we I almost skipped over it, but when he's sitting on the farm, and I love when Mark Strong just walks up and you just see his boots. You just hear his voice first, and he's telling him to get up, and you got to keep going, and whatnot. That's a really, really good scene. Probably my favorite cameo of the entire thing. But eventually they go, and the Germans blew up a bridge, and that's as far as he can go. He's got to get out. He's got to walk the rest of the way, and Mark Strong just tells him kind of to keep going, keep trucking along.
When he also says something interesting, he goes, make sure that when you tell the commander that there are witnesses.
You're right, yeah.
Because some men just want
That was
more.
important. And I thought...
Super important.
I thought that this was even going to be a bigger moment when it happened. But you realize kind of what he was saying when he said it. Because at first you're thinking, oh, this general must be crazy. Like, that's kind of what I was thinking when he said that. Like,
that's what I thought, too.
Like, he's just this
like
guy...
a warmonger.
Exactly. Like,
he
this guy...
wanted war no matter what.
And he just kind of lost it. He's just seen so much that he just... Yeah, he doesn't want it to end. That's kind of the feeling. But by the time he gets to Benedict, it's not that at all. No. But yeah, he tells him.
It's good though to hear that, because then you think about those things.
Oh yeah.
And you think about, wow, there are generals out there that are like that. It's just humankind. Like some people.
I think now more than ever. Probably. Yeah. Well, yeah. But there's always people who are upset when a war ends. There's people in World War II. I've heard on more than one stories of generals being mad, especially British soldiers being mad that the Americans joined, because there's a guy named Jack Churchill, but he was a really famous general and he was mad that the Americans joined because he has a famous quote that he's saying, they could have kept the war going another 9 years had the Americans not joined. He just loved it. That's
so crazy.
Yeah,
it's so weird.
He just loved it. Yeah,
some men love
some
that.
people are built for it. Yeah. They really are. But most people aren't.
No.
That's an
outlier.
That's an outlier.
6%? Yeah.
Every once in a while you get a guy that just doesn't care about dying. But yeah, so he tells him that. He tells him, make sure that there's witnesses when you go and tell him, because he might not want to stop this. But he's got to go quick. So he goes, he starts crossing the bridge, and right when he gets to that fucking halfway mark on that bridge, he starts getting shot at. Yeah, like the guy was waiting for him to clear like the zone of Alaska. Yeah, because as soon as he crosses that, he starts catching bullets. People are shooting at him. Another tense scene. He's got to jump into the water to get away from the fucking.
No, he didn't jump in the water this time. He crossed the bridge and jumped on that little platform.
Oh right, he jumps down.
The second one later on, he jumps. Yeah. But this one, he jumped on a little platform and then snuck his way up. Guy almost took his head off when he came up the stairs. Great shot by Schofield. This guy should get an award for this shot.
Well, let's talk about these Germans.
The snipers had the high.
Did no one tell the Germans how guns work? You're not supposed to be running and firing. Guns work. I know, yeah. Guns work at a distance. That's how they work their rifles.
You don't have to run up to the guy point blank. Yeah.
Like this was a time where they were still unsure. Like they thought you had to get real fucking close. But yeah, whenever there's a German...
In all reality, in 1917, the guns weren't nearly, and this is a no-brainer, but aren't nearly as accurate as they were even in World War II.
No, but they weren't muskets.
By any means.
By any means, they were not muskets. They were actually cartridges and bullets, and so they could shoot straight if you could shoot it, if you could wield one.
You also got to wonder, though, training-wise, for 1917, and with the Germans, how much training some of these soldiers had.
Oh, well, Germans were probably well-trained. Yeah. But by, again, 1917, it's desperate where you're getting everyone and you're making the training go by in a week, because you got to get guys out on the front lines. Yep. But yeah, so he goes and he gets knocked out by a ricochet.
Well, yeah, because he goes up, he takes a shot, which I could tell, that one hit, and then he shoots 3 more rounds up at the house, comes forward, breaks through the house, walks slowly up the stairs, kicks in the door.
And the German is just barely
waiting.
Alive.
Yeah, he's waiting for him with a little pistol, shoots. Schofield shoots him, kills him, but then the bullet ricochets and knocks him out and knocks him down the stairs.
Yeah, and that's one of those editing moments. Yeah.
And this is everyone says this whole film was taken in one continuous shot. This is the moment, the only moment in the film where you could say this is not continuous, because then it goes into night.
Yeah.
Like pure night.
Well, he wakes up at night. That's which sucks because he was on a timeline. So you don't want to be sleeping right now.
Delayed
it's a bad
few
time
hours,
to be sleeping, yeah. But taking a bullet to the goddamn head will do that.
It will.
It will knock your ass out. But
took it like a champ, too. Most people just croak and die.
Yeah. So he regains consciousness, and
this is one of my favorite. Real quick, this is one of my
black.
favorite shots of this film when we see that he's in the house, right? And then the camera slowly turns and it goes up the stairs, and we see the dead German, and then it goes out the window.
That was a good shot.
And then it slowly comes down, but the setting, the scenery too, of like the flares going up, so like the Germans could see at night.
Yeah.
And then the camera slowly drops down.
And you feel
and
that
Schofield walks right under it. It's just it looks really good.
And even though that was one of those editing, you still feel the continuation of that.
Yes.
You feel like when that camera going out was him running down the stairs and then it coming back, connecting it to him.
And I felt like there was just enough time for that too.
Exactly. Oh yeah, that's exactly what I was getting at. Yeah, like 20 seconds of him clearing the stairs. But yeah, and then it's in like a French city. I don't know. I'm not gonna say what city, but it's completely destroyed. But it's at night. But those flares going up, man, it made it look beautiful and scary too.
That was the contrast there. I totally agree with that because that's what I was thinking too. I was like, that beautiful setting, but also terrifying at the same time because you have Germans everywhere, scattered throughout, and at any time you could die.
Oh yeah. And the only light you have to go by, you don't have a fucking. At this point, I don't know if he had a flashlight still after getting bombed, but it was pitch dark, and he doesn't know where he's going either. He's just running.
Idea.
Yeah,
doesn't have a map.
He's completely
anything.
knocked out. He got knocked out. He's completely delirious, so he's got no idea where he's running to, and he's just running into Germans constantly
because they're everywhere.
Yeah, there's a chase scene. One German's running after him, and he ends up dipping down into this little, like a basement. Yep, basically. And that's where he finds
a French woman,
and a baby, and he spent some time there.
I like the reveal of it first. First, it was a French woman, right? He gets to kind of know her, says, "Hey, I'm not an enemy. I'm your friend." Yada yada, and then the baby cries
because it just makes it that much. As soon as you hear that baby cry, you go from thinking, okay, these are just two adults that are it sucks, but as soon as you hear that baby cry, it's like, oh shit,
right.
And I was like, oh my God, you have a baby in this fucking,
And then we find out the baby's not even hers.
Yeah,
she just found the baby. And like she has a good enough heart during all this chaos when you could be super selfish to take care of this baby as well. And that's when Schofield really is like, oh my gosh, no, I have everything for you. Here's all my food. And then she's like, well, babies can't eat food. And he goes, she needs milk,
and he's like, damn, I don't got any. And he takes it.
I do. Yeah, he's like, I filled up at the farm. Yeah, so that's it's one of those moments too where like that didn't seem unbelievable to me, at all.
It wasn't.
Like that's exactly what you would do as a soldier. I mean, you don't have any resources, and that water that Schofield was pumping was not good water. So you got one option.
Dead cows swimming in the well, probably, or they probably poisoned the water.
And threw a bunch of cows in it.
Yeah, but yeah, it was. It just made that moment so much more important to me when you hear that baby and you hear just what a horrible. But yeah, like you said, I mean, it's not unrealistic because, I mean, it's just citizens that were living there. I mean, of course, what are they gonna do? Yeah. But a hideout. But yeah, so he gives the baby some milk and but he realizes he's got to go. He can't stick around here any longer. And she's trying to get him to stay, to not go.
Yeah, she goes. It's gonna be dawn soon. It's gonna be light outside. They're gonna see you. The Germans will see you.
Yeah, Yeah, because it's right about morning, and morning time is when the battle's starting. Is when they're gonna attack at dawn, because you always attack at dawn. It's the most dramatic time to attack.
Yeah.
So and then he's realized, oh shit, I only got a couple hours. So he goes out. He gets noticed twice by Germans. And he doesn't have a gun either, I don't think.
Not an operational one.
No. So he's so he's discovered twice by Germans. He runs into a building, ends up having to choke one German out to death, and they're kind of drunk. They're partying,
Oh yeah,
doing what they got to do. And he chokes one German out in a very tense, long, realistic choke scene to me. I thought it was really well done.
Yes.
That's how long it takes a while. When I hear it takes a while. Yeah. I hear it always takes a little longer than you expect.
Yeah. And a little bit more effort than one expects to. Yes.
But so he strangles one and he pushes past the other one and this guy's like falling down drunk. But he still fucking breaks out into chase and chases him for a long time.
And then two other Germans chase him.
Yeah, and they're running, and they're shooting at him, and all this time, the flares are popping up and whatnot, and it looks amazing. But he escapes, and he finally reaches the Devons. But it's
no, he jumps off the bridge. Remember, because he's getting
that's
chased.
true.
He jumps into the
that's
bridge.
how he escapes.
Yeah.
Through the raging fucking river. And
I love this. I love this too because you felt kind of this sense of despair when he's coming down this river.
Oh yeah.
I was just like, oh my god, how is he going to get out of this?
You knew there was a waterfall coming.
Yeah, and you
There's a
really
river.
had a thought. Like
There's
you watch this,
yeah.
you're like, he could drown.
Oh yeah.
When he turns around and he hits that giant rock, I'm like, oh, he's knocked out. He's dead.
Yeah. Well, best fucking case scenario, I'd rather take that river on those fucking Germans.
That's true.
I mean, when I saw that, I was thinking, oh god, if he gets away from this, he's at least a distance away. No one's jumping in that river after him. But yeah, he goes on a river rapid journey.
He does, and he goes down the waterfall, and then towards kind of like
it's a cool moment
because
you're not sure. I mean, you know he's gonna pop up, but it takes about a minute for him to come out of the water. Yeah. And at this point, he's just not looking good.
No, he's looking defeated. And you know what's so interesting
he's about
that
half
too?
A person right now.
Is he finds that log and he lays upside down and he tries to die.
Oh yeah,
he tries to die. He tries to let himself go in the water, but he can't do it.
And it would. Oh yeah, and it would have because he hears the music or he hears someone singing, and he just slinks up there with whatever energy he has.
When he started, but before this, I love this scene too, and this is like something we haven't talked enough about, like how well this the makeup and stuff and the dead bodies were. He goes to swim over to the tree that's kind of blocking the river.
Yeah,
and he's got to crawl over a bunch of.
Oh yeah, it was
dead
like a
bodies.
dam or something.
And it's very true because when bodies are in water for a long period of time, they get extremely bloated, and the tongue will protrude out of someone's mouth like that. But all those little details of like how someone's body does that. Yeah. If they're in water for weeks, was very well done. I was like, wow, this is super realistic.
Well, this entire story is based off a story that Sam Mendes' grandpa told him about what happened when he was in World War I. Mm-hmm. So you have to assume that it's firsthand knowledge that Sam Mendes is getting. So he's not even really reading in a book, which you could get all these details from a book, but he's getting firsthand knowledge, which is pretty hard to get firsthand knowledge of World War I these days. Yeah. You get people that heard from other people. So, I mean, I'm sure those were details that he was although Sam Mendes' grandpa didn't go through what this guy went through. Yeah. He wasn't the one going and delivering the message, but I'm sure he gave him those details of seeing dead bodies and what dead bodies look like. So it was probably really important for Sam Mendes to get that correct. Yeah. Because even at the end, we got the in memory of his grandfather who was in World War I.
I got to talk about one scene since we're talking about the dead bodies. When Tom Blake and Schofield jump into that crater. And he goes, oh, and he looks over, and then Tom Blake knocks him over, and he sticks his hand right after he cut his hand, and he sticks it down in the man's chest.
Gross. Yeah, that was at the point when he just started and he fucking already hated being there. Yeah, and he was getting all the worst shit was happening to him. Everything bad was happening to him. Yeah, that was fucking disgusting. Yeah.
So we pick off there, and then that's when he climbs out. He's kind of at his wit's end. He's kind of crying and stuff, but then he hears the singing,
just faint singing in the distance.
And I don't know what it was about that song, but I really, really enjoyed it.
It's any time when a guy's singing an old Irish or Celtic song, and there's a group of men around him, and
there's something special about that.
Yeah, they do it in Lord of the Rings. They did it in Game of Thrones. It's any time when you're in a really good environment with great acoustics. Yeah. That it's always a good moment in a movie.
Well, the Lord of the Rings one was great too because you just see the king and he's just feasting. He doesn't care.
That was good, and they did it. They did it a few times. Yeah, during that. Yeah, exactly.
During the massacre,
and this was the exact same.
Son.
Exactly, this was that exact same thing where it was one last song before, you're going to die. Yeah. You always give him one last song, send him off on a good tune. That's what you got to do back then. And he's singing, and he doesn't even really realize where he is.
No, he's not shell shocked, but it sure appears that way. As far as like he's just incoherent. Yeah. He doesn't know what's going on around
And during
him.
This scene, again, it goes back to the deal. I just thought, man, these guys look like they're right out of 1917. It looks just like the documentary, They Should Not Grow. All those guys with like the mustaches and it's such a particular look that you can like pull right out of that era, but they looked just like they didn't look like they were from 2020.
Yeah. And that's the thing too. Like I keep going back to it, but it's just the little details that just really put this movie to the next level.
But he kind of like mumbles to a guy about like the Devons or something, and the guy goes, "Well, we're the Devons," and he goes, "Oh shit, yeah." And then he gets a little bit of fucking adrenaline, a little bit of whatever he has left.
Wind, you know.
Whatever he has got left in the fucking tank, he was using.
And
right
he asked for General McKenzie right away.
And of course he's on the opposite.
7.5 fucking miles down.
And there's the trenches. You got to go through trenches, but they're fucking packed full of people because they're all getting ready to
go to war. They're ready
go
to
over
go
the wall.
over.
Yeah, over the go to the wall. Yeah, and so again, he's right there, but it's a problem you can only have in 1917. You know, you can't have these problems in fucking now. You're just calling the guy.
Just text him.
So it's like
hey, General,
it's like 200 feet he's got to go through, but it's like it might as well be across the fucking desert because he can't get to him in time. And they're
and this is right at the time that they're about to attack as well.
It's dawn.
So it's chaos as well.
Well, they're sending over the first wave already when he's there, when everybody's in the middle.
Yeah, and they were actually the second wave.
Yeah. Well, there was they never send anyone over. You don't send them all first at once because those guys are done. You want to get
You always want to be the second wave.
Oh, for sure. Maybe even the third. If you can. Yeah.
Can I sign up? Is there registration
an
form?
8th seed. I want to get back.
I'll
Is there guys that just
reserves.
come up after the war's over? Yeah. But
Do the cleanup.
But he knows he can't make it in time if he just runs through the trenches. So he's got to go up in the fucking what's gonna be no man's land and run just through the field, which is
and this
bold.
Is so cool.
It's a good scene, man.
I gotta obviously we see it in film, like we saw it on the big screen, but I also gotta watch the behind the scenes of them shooting this.
Yeah, I saw that too.
It is so cool, man. The way that they
and this was a scene where it's like it felt like they could only do once. Because him running and getting knocked down and tripping over the guys was not scripted.
It was not supposed to be there at all.
I'm guessing.
And you notice the first guy that he runs into, the guy just lays there afterwards.
Yeah, he does.
And I noticed that the first time.
I guarantee
that was a little weird.
Well, because I guarantee he did not know what to do.
No, he's just an extra. He doesn't know what to do. Yeah. Do I get back up and run, or do I just play dead?
Yeah, I'm
like
just playing dead, like I got shot. And hopefully, no one realizes.
No one knows. Yeah,
and I don't get fired.
And I noticed that immediately, and then it was actually later on that I found out that was improv, and I go, okay, that makes sense then, because the guy just played possum. After he got knocked over.
It was that guy was so fucking scared being there that as soon as he got hit by anything, okay, I'm done.
I'm done.
Yeah,
I'm dead. I don't know.
Even though he got 3 feet from the trench, but yeah, I would. I mean, it for sure was a mistake, but it's artistic license. You know, you just gotta.
Oh, totally.
You just gotta roll with that at that point.
And we don't know. Maybe he might have hit him in the head. He knocked him out. You know.
Yeah, or maybe that guy was just scared shitless, and like this guy
pretended to be dead.
He's not thinking some guy's about to tackle him. That guy came out of nowhere. Yeah. He's like, are the Germans that close to us? I'm just heading out. I'm just staying low. Yeah, I mean, that guy must have been baffled. He was like, what the fuck is going on? You don't think of anyone running horizontal
when we're going to war anyway. Yeah. Well, then as an extra on set too.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you know, because it's just an extra.
Yeah.
Like, the guy's got to be like, I don't want to make a mistake.
Don't want to make a mistake. In that shot, because they had so many extras in that. No CGI, all real people, it looked like. And but yeah, I'm sure that was one, because they were blowing up a ton of stuff, too. So you can't really do a lot of those retakes if you blow something up. So I'm sure Sam Mendes says, whatever happens, just roll with it. Yeah.
Well, and you can see him kind of getting behind.
Because he gets knocked down like 4 times. You can't see him. He's not keeping up with the dolly or whatever. But it makes it that much more realistic to me. It felt like he was like getting behind, like he was not going to be there in time. It really ended up working out really well, but he ends up finally getting to the headquarters, the little hut where the general stays, and they're not going to let his ass in.
Nope.
Well, at this point, he doesn't look like a soldier.
No, he doesn't. And I love
how a madman.
He does look like a madman, but I love how he's running past after he gets over there. Then he's back in the trenches, right?
Yeah.
And he's asking them. He's like, where's General McKenzie? Where's General McKenzie, right? I'm talking about like before the big final run.
Yeah.
And then the one general's like, don't you dare, kid. And he just pops his head out and starts running.
Oh, yeah.
He didn't care. But yeah, anyway, finds the general and they're not going to let him in.
No, they're not. They don't want to let him in because, one, I mean, you don't want to bother the general at this moment.
Right. I'm sure he's got some...
he's got bigger things going on. Yeah. He thinks he's about to win the war. But he burst in there, and he ends up just pleading with him, and then eventually they let him talk. And this is the whole moment.
By Cumberpatch.
Yep, old Old Cumberpatch. But yeah, this is the moment where you're thinking, oh, this guy is not going to call it off no matter what. But you end up finding out that he's not a warmonger.
No,
he's just
after he read the letter,
he's just desperate, just like everyone else. And he says, he's like, well, they don't send me today. They'll send me next week. They'll send me today. So he's like, why not? He's like, why not go today? But he pleads with them because, again, he thinks the Germans are retreating still. And he gives them the letter, the official letter.
And he says, it's a trap. Would you just please read the letter?
Yeah.
And that's when he finally
it's tense because you really don't know what he's going to do.
No, you don't. Not
until the very last moment. And it builds it up, too. They know exactly what they were doing. They build up, and at the very last moment, he goes, all right, call it off. But he had to plea with him to fucking do it. But he made a valid point. Because after they called off, they kind of talk for a while, and he goes, it doesn't matter. He's like, the war like this, where it's so many people, it's the last man standing. Just the last guy who just happens to be lucky enough to not get shot is who's going to win.
Yeah. And then as soon as he's done talking to him, he goes, what the fuck are you still doing here?
Yeah. Get
out
of here, you son of a bitch.
And that's when you realize, too, where it's like, wow, like this guy he's probably been, like, over the years as a general, he's so used to seeing soldiers in and out.
Think of what was going through his head before that moment. We're winning the war. I'm sending all these guys home. These guys that make
this fucking kid coming to tell you.
Not just these guys, not my platoon, but I'm sending thousands of guys home. This entire process, and to have someone at the very last moment going, sorry, the war's got to keep going. We got to keep going. I mean, that guy, man, he must have been, I mean, you got to put yourself in your shoes. I almost wouldn't have stopped it if you really did think it was going to end.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
especially being there for years. That's all you want to do. That's
it was almost a coin flip. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's wild. That was maybe the most political point they made was at that very end when he's like, and it just showed you how fucking horrible that war was.
Oh, just awful.
Yeah.
Awful. I mean, I really do recommend watching that They Shall Not Grow Old documentary.
Oh, it's the best.
It is so... It will open your eyes to how miserable World War I was.
Yeah, that's not a war that people talk about a lot because it was overshadowed by World War II, but it's a brutal war. And a lot of good stories like this.
Yeah.
A ton of good stories like this. But so they call it off, and he's, again, they tell him to go to the infirmary, like take the afternoon.
Take the afternoon off, get back in the front lines tomorrow.
I'm going to want you bright and early, but you deserved an hour break on this one. And you take that break.
Your best friend just died. You're all right.
You saved 1,600 men. You deserve the afternoon. You earned it. And you're getting a medal.
You know what? As a matter of fact,
you're getting a medal.
We got a can of dog food for you, too.
I know. We just threw on some rat on the barbecue. You're first up, bud. But, so he goes and he... And on his way, he kind of he bumps into. Well,
he's looking for Blake's brother, Joseph Blake. He's looking for him, and he's calling it out in the medical tents. And this is a really crazy scene too, because then you see like the destruction of World War I as well. 2 people losing limbs.
Oh, guys with legs blown off and everything. Yeah,
and
they were only fighting for 3 minutes.
That's it. Yeah.
But it sucks for those first wave guys.
Oh, brutal. Never want to be first wave
because those guys were just slaughtered. Because it was just Germans waiting for him. But, so he's going and looking for his brother.
Yeah. And he does end up finding Joseph Blake, which I don't know if this is incoincidental or in...
No, it's not. It's because they're all
coincidental.
British. Yeah.
Jesus. But it's Rob Stark from Game of Thrones. Which is crazy.
Yeah, there's not that many actors in the.
It's just so funny though because they're like, oh, he'll look just like me, and I'm like, hold on, they were enemies in Game of Thrones, now they're brothers.
They do look a lot.
They do a lot. Yeah,
a lot like though. I bet they're similar in age too. Though the actual actors, but yeah, he finds him and he's all pumped. He's like, well, "Where's he at?" He's like, "Bring him on.
Gotta give that kid a noogie."
Yeah, I've seen that guy, my old buddy, a long while. And then immediately, and he knows, his brother knows immediately as soon as he shows him.
And the first thing Schofield says is he tells him it was quick.
Yeah, which is important.
And then he tells him that he saved his life.
Yeah, exactly. And his brother was torn up about it for sure.
Oh, definitely. You can see the sorrow in his face. I mean, he was almost shocked too because when he hands him the jewelry, if you watch his hand doesn't move.
He does, and
he's just kind of staring at it, just looking.
He does, but he does thank Will.
He does.
He thanks him. He thanks him for being with him at the end. Yeah.
And then Schofield walks away, and then he turns back and he goes, "Can I write to your mother and let him know that it was quick?"
Yeah.
Let her know that it was quick, because that was one of the wishes of Blake before he died.
To walk through, yeah. And he, of course, says, yeah. He says, yeah, go for it. And then he kind of walks to the old sit-in tree, takes a long, hard sit at the old French countryside. And it's, again, we've talked about it all throughout, but it's crazy how you could, like, turn around and it'd be picturesque, beautiful, just fucking French countryside.
Yep.
Rolling hills, animals, farmland.
Gorgeous.
And then you could do a 180, and all you could see was death.
Death, yeah.
Destruction.
Decay.
It's so bizarre. It's so weird that it was that kind of. It's because that war encompasses so much area and land where it's.
And again, hats off to the filmmakers for this. This is Sam Mendes, because like the contrast was so in your face too. Like you really could tell.
Oh yeah.
And I think, to me, it made a point. Like he was making a point.
Oh yeah.
Of like the difference between war and peace. Too.
Yeah.
You know.
And it was just, it was a short time. Before this time, there was no fighting or anything. So it was his, and for all we know, his heart might have just given out right there. But he saved all those people,
He did.
Did.
And he pulled out the family. Yeah, he pulled out his picture of his wife.
And it wasn't a
two
thing
kids.
like that wasn't ever made a big deal that he had a family and kids or anything. We never
didn't even know.
At one point, he kind of he like pulls something out, but then puts it right back in. We never know, and that's something different that this movie did. That where other movies would have built that up right at the start to give that character more depth. So but you didn't need it.
You didn't, and that's what's so crazy.
And everyone's got fucking family.
Yeah,
every one of these guys. Not one guy's got two kids. Everyone's got fucking family. They're all fighting for their kids and their family.
Yeah. And I felt like, and it's such a crazy thing to say, because, you don't get a lot of background, quote unquote, on these characters. But for a war film and what they were able to do, you really felt for all these characters.
Yeah.
You really did. You felt for Tom Blake. You felt for Schofield.
There was no
the Englishman.
There was no background. Oh, yeah. You felt for everyone fighting.
Yeah.
You felt for the Germans at times.
Yeah, at times.
Because it wasn't
until the guy got pulled out of the plane and stabbed him. I was like, okay, well, that's
you didn't feel for that German.
No, I did not.
But you felt for the guy you choked to death, and you felt for. Because again, this wasn't a movie about good and bad.
No.
It was just a movie about everyone being put in a horrible, horrible situation, and these guys just on a mission to save just some people.
Well, yeah, because that German he strangled was like 16, 17.
Exactly, and I think they made a point to even make him look similar to it. Because again, they're just kids, just like they just thought they were fighting.
Scared,
they just thought they were fighting for their land, just like British people thought they were fighting for.
War sucks, man. War sucks.
I'm relieved we didn't live in
this time period. Yeah.
But again, it was an honorable time. It was.
Oh, absolutely.
No, you didn't have to. Although there was drafting, but at the start you didn't have to. People were lining up to join that shit because they thought they were fighting for something good. It's different now to where you feel like you're just fighting for some guy's money. Right. Yeah. So it's
or a never-ending war.
Yeah, exactly. Well. That's not getting like what
you can't.
At least them they can look at it and say it's tangible. Like we are fighting. If we win,
there was definitely a need for both of these wars.
If we win. For World War II, you could especially see.
Yes.
These guys are 100% villains.
I mean, when you're talking about concentration camps and literally just sending people to their death, war.
Yeah. You were fighting for something you could see.
Necessary.
Yeah, you could see. A lot of times now you can't see what you're fighting for.
Nope.
So it makes
and a lot of times nowadays too, we had over the last 3 presidents all these drone strikes, thousands of drone strikes.
Yeah.
And it's like we don't even know what we're fighting.
No.
Sometimes.
We don't know who we're dropping bombs on.
We don't even declare war,
No,
like
no one ever
that's
declares
a common
war
thing
anymore.
Nowadays. No one declares war.
Well, the last war was declared in World War man, I think
it wasn't even Nam. It was World War II was the last one.
Yeah, I don't think we ever declared war on Vietnam.
Vietnam, no. Nor the Korean War either.
No. Korean War.
Nope. World War II was the last declared war.
Yeah. Because Congress has to declare war. Nowadays, you just don't need it.
No, you don't. No, we got drones and whatever else.
I mean, yeah, that was back then when you declared war on an actual enemy, and you know what you were fighting for. But
it's a little convoluted now.
It is, for sure. Definitely. But, a great film.
Yeah.
I loved it, man. A thrill ride. I've said it before, but this is one I was on the edge of my seat from start to finish. I didn't know what was going to go on. Didn't know what was going to happen. Again, it wasn't like a story that was told or I knew or anything like that. It was, intimate, but it was good, man. Simple, very simple premise. No twists or turns in this. two guys. They had to get from point A to point B. That's as fucking easy as it gets. It shows that you don't need to overcomplicate a film to make it good. Yeah. Well, what do you think? Closing thoughts?
Yeah, let's do closing thoughts and then grade right afterwards.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll just kind of hit up on some of the things I have talked about. Details in this film. Wow. From the bodies to the costumes to the scenery work, the trenches, just everything about it, just the way people were acting, the maneuvers, like it was so well done. This is as far as a grade for me, this is one of my favorite films, if not my favorite film of 2019. And unfortunately, we had to watch it in 2020. Everything hit for me. Like in a war film, you don't need a bunch of background on the characters, but you really felt for every single character. You loved every single character, and you wanted what was best. And it was just like a realistic story, I really think, on World War I. You know, after watching They Shall Not Grow Old, and you see all the things that these soldiers had to go through, and then you see this where it's just like another day where they just call two kids up. It's like, okay, you got to save 1,600 people. You got to get from point A to point B. Everything about this film was just wonderful. You can hear my review from the last hour and 15 minutes as well. But for me, I don't do this very often. But this film for me gets an A+.
Wow. I
thought it was perfect. There was nothing in this movie where I was ever taken out of. There was nothing that I was like, I didn't like this or I didn't like that or the story didn't work here. Every part of this was so spot on with World War I and the death, decay, and destruction. A lot of times that you feel like hopeless.
Yeah.
And I felt that. I felt that at times. I loved it.
I would agree.
Loved it.
I would agree with you. I think it's a kind of film where even if you're a World War I historian or even if you're just a fan of movies, you're going to like it. It's broad range of it encompasses all this emotion that anyone can enjoy because it's like I said, it is an intimate story. It's not about a platoon of guys or anything like that. It's about two guys on a desperate mission to cross all this land to save people, you know? It's a story that you couldn't write now because it couldn't happen nowadays, but it's a really, really great story. And it's my front runner for, I think it's going to win Best Picture at the Oscars.
And that's something else that I didn't say in my recap was the cinematography was my favorite of the year.
Oh yeah.
Like I off the top of my head, I cannot think of a better movie to win for best cinematography.
Yeah.
I love this.
Yeah.
This is my front runner.
It's it's right up there with The Lighthouse for me.
Lighthouse. Yes, that would be the other one.
But yeah, I loved it, and we barely even talked about the main actors, but George McKay, who played Will Schofield, fucking phenomenal,
great actor, and he's not known at all.
No,
and I felt like I've seen him on screen for years.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
his way of conveying that desperate emotion throughout the entire movie was amazing. But I gave it an A. I mean, it's a strong 90 for me.
Captain Fantastic, my guy.
Yeah, I knew I saw him in something.
From. Yeah, I knew I saw him from something. But man, this he's a real deal right here. This kid's great. Not a kid, he's older than me.
Him and both of them. The other guy too, Dean Charles Chapman.
Yes.
Killed it.
He did.
And I thought, and smart on Sam Mendes of getting guys that you can act but aren't big names.
Yep.
I think it would have been too distracting.
It would have been
having
very
those
distracting.
big names be those cameos, being those generals. That was genius to me.
It was, and it was just
enough. It didn't take away from those other two guys.
Because they weren't the main focus.
Yeah, it was a proper cameo. It wasn't like one of them was in there for 45 minutes. You're calling a cameo.
Yeah, and they're like the general
2 to
like
3
the father
minutes.
figure.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
it wasn't. No, they don't give a fuck. It's World War I. Yeah. You move on.
Most of the time, the generals were assholes. I would say only Mark Strong was the guy
the only guy that was kind of gave him any.
He witnessed or he saw that guy his friend just died. And he knew exactly what that was. But yeah, those cameos were perfect. I thought. A great film, Mason. To start the year out.
Jeez, it doesn't.
It sets a high bar.
I can honestly say this. It doesn't get much better than this.
The only thing that's going to be better is Dune. I'm telling you right now.
That's right. Dune will be pretty good. Dune will be amazing.
I don't know. This was a really good movie, though. I was. I don't know. I don't want to say I was shocked, but I was honestly surprised by how into the film I was. By the time it ended, and you got those ending credits and he said in memoriam to his grandfather, whatever. You felt like you just got off a roller coaster. Yeah. You know, you need to take a breather.
I went and saw this film twice. I was actually bugging
I got to see
Ken.
it again.
I was bugging Ken the second time. I was like, Ken, you're going to love this movie. Come with me. Come with me. And then he ended up
I
going
told
the
my
second
parents,
time.
my dad who's a big war buff, but my mom who hates anything to do with shooting or anything. She went and saw it and loved it. Yeah. So that just tells you.
Well, because it's not Hacksaw Ridge where you're going to deal with... Which, again, great film. Don't get me wrong. Andrew Garfield was great.
It was good,
Mel
but
Gibson was good.
They definitely made
crap,
it more of an action film.
Yeah, it was gory as all get out.
Yeah.
I was just like,
at one point, remember the guy picks up another guy's torso as a shield.
As a shield. I was like,
my God.
brutal.
That was Mel Gibson, too.
It was Mel. Yeah. It was definitely Mel.
Easy Mel.
It's a Mel film.
Well, all right, Mason, that's all I got for 1917. I would say I recommend it.
Highly recommend
If it's this or Doolittle...
Tough choice.
Sea Cats.
Sea Cats. Yeah, Sea Cats. Alrighty, guys. That's our review for 1917, the Sam Mendes directed film. If you guys like what you've seen here, be sure to like this video. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to our YouTube channel, guys. We're slowly growing there. We appreciate all the support. Be sure to check us out anywhere you can find podcasts: Spotify, iTunes, SoundCloud, Google Play, and Stitcher. Our social media pages: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram.
Sure.
Have you seen it? Have you seen a podcast? Twitter, Seen It Podcast. My name is Mason Knight. That is Cash Kraus. And until next time.
Bye.